As a mixed medium, cinema can incorporate all the other art forms, or it can invoke them by imitating their procedures. But how? How do we understand this statement? Firstly, it can be divided into two aspects. On the one hand, cinema can incorporate all the other art forms, like this.
Un orage qui monte. Et des insectes qui le sentent.
This.
Après avoir préludé en frappant les cordes de sa lyre, il chanta ainsi. Ô divinité de ce monde souterrain où retombent toutes les créatures mortelles de notre espèce, je suis venu chercher ici mon épouse.
And this.
N'allez pas trop vite. Prenez le temps de me regarder. Regardez la position de mes bras.
All this.
Yes. More.
This. And also this. That's to say, as a collaborative art form, film has ample time and space to incorporate other art forms like music, literature, painting, dance, performance, and so on. Well, let's have another look at the statement and analyze the second part of it. That is, cinema can invoke other art forms by imitating their procedures. This is an interesting point of view, isn't it? But how can we understand it? Let's look at this screenshot at first. Okay, what do you think about these pictures? Do they look like paintings or not? And I will talk about it later. So, as you can see, I've divided the argument into two parts as follows. As a matter of fact, it's nothing new. According to Agnes, the idea that film has indissoluble ties with other medium and arts is one of the oldest concerns of theorizing about the movies. You may ask, isn't it a bit out of date to discuss it again and again? But definitely not. This is not a cliché, but the theories of intermediality adds a new dimension to it. Even though Agnes pointed out that this topic had been mentioned for a long time, at the same time, she acknowledged that it is the theory of intermediality that has brought into the spotlight the intricate interactions of different medium manifest in the cinema, emphasizing the way in which the moving pictures can incorporate forms of all other medium and can initiate fusions and dialogues between the distinct arts. Before we go too far, let's return to the main topic, the cinematic intermediality, and have another look at the main argument. Among the other art forms, I've chosen painting as the subject of my analysis and focus on the relationship between film and painting. As for the examples, I choose Portrait of a Lady on Fire and The Danish Girl. By comparing the two films, the frequent interaction between the two will be analyzed in this video. To be more specific, the two films not only contain several paintings as an important component, but also present the painting process. Last but not least, resulting to the use of light and color, as well as composition, the two films themselves look like paintings. So currently, let's move on to the case study. In this section, I'm going to analyze the film closely and try to answer the following questions in detail. First of all, I will try to answer question 1 by comparing the two films and find their similarities and differences. Then I will discuss the second question and explore the effect of invoking painting by imitating its procedures, rather than only incorporating it. Here comes the first question. How cinema incorporates painting into it by comparing Portrait of a Lady on Fire and The Danish Girl. To be honest, the reason why I choose these two films is because painting plays an indispensable role in both of them. In Portrait of a Lady on Fire, an artist named Marianne is commissioned to paint the portrait of a young woman named Heloise, who is about to be married off to a Milanese nobleman. However, they fall in love as she paints her portrait. In terms of The Danish Girl, it is adapted from a novel of the same name by David Ebershoff, and tells a story about Einar Wegener, a popular landscape artist who stumbled on his deepest desire for the gender identity as a woman, while posing for a painting on which his wife is working. By comparing these two films, I found them strikingly similar in some ways. Apart from painting portraits at the center of the plots, the heroines of both films are portrait painters, so it's no wonder there are plenty of paintings incorporated into them. What's more, most of the paintings that appear in the films were created by the main characters. By the way, in The Danish Girl, the hero, Einar Wegener, is also a painter who is good at painting landscapes. In addition to showing the painted work directly, the two films also document the process of painting at length. Take the clip from Portrait of a Lady on Fire, for example, when Marianne points Heloise's portrait at first. Because Heloise's resistance, Marianne can only secretly observe what Heloise looks like and paint from memory. However, when Marianne is about to leave because she's unable to complete the test assigned to her, Heloise changes her attitude and takes the initiative to cooperate with Marianne in painting her portrait in the next days. The film presents the process of portrait painting and the transformation of the characters' relationships and
Soyez sérieuse.
emotions. Also, in The Danish Girl, when Anna Wegener first put on women's clothes to play the role of a model, although he's very excited, he was still very unused to it. But as time went by, he began to enjoy it and become more and more natural in front of the drawing board, as he stopped hiding his inner desires and thoughts. Additionally, both films feature many shots of the artist painting where the models lives, and also show the process of painting in the way. As a matter of fact, the painting process is also a process for the two heroines to get to know each other in the portrait of a lady on fire. And as for the Danish girl, it is about knowing and finding his true self. Based on the article Intermediality, Intertextuality, and Remediation, a literary perspective on intermediality written by Rachelsky, incorporating paintings into films is actually what she calls the medial combination. And when it comes to the second question, how does cinema invoke painting by imitating its procedures? It is the intermedial reference Rachelsky mentioned in her article. So here comes to the second question. How does cinema invoke painting by imitating its procedures? Honestly, we can see lots of elements of painting in these films. First of all, the color used in both films is just like the one used in the paintings. Look at this. If I didn't tell you they are clips from a film, would you think they are oil paintings? Actually, almost every frame in Portrait of a Lady on Fire is like a beautiful painting, isn't it? The use of light and color gives the view a painterly aesthetic to the film. As for The Danish Girl, the film images also share similarities with the oil paintings, as in the case of Hans' visit to Wegener's home, where Wegener, dressed in brightly colored clothes, looked like an oil painting in the dim light. Secondly, the compositions of both films also subtly draw on the visual elements of painting. Take the decor in The Danish Girl for an example. The window and door in the home of Mr. and Mrs. Wegener are just like frames, which make them look like in the paintings. As for the layout of the city streets, the architecture both in Amsterdam and Paris are well structured, and the strict shapes are like the lines in the paintings. When it comes to Portrait of Lady on Fire, the interior decorations such as tables, chairs, tableware, and the closet behind all fit together like a picture. Whether it is the decoration in The Danish Girl, the layout of the city streets, or the setting of the indoor and outdoor scenes in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, they all present a painting-like feel. The director and cinematographer draw on the principle of composition in paintings in the setting of the images, creating layered and artistic scenes through carefully designed images. Particularly in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, the dresses of the two heroines are red and green respectively. This seemingly discordant color applied to create tension in the images. Lastly, intermediate references are also reflected in the discontinuity of the movie screen. Compared to continuous long shots, There are several editing and flashbacks in the two films. Let's look at these clips at first. The inconsistencies of the camera manifest themselves in both The Danish Girl and Portrait of a Lady on Fire. In the case of the former, it switches directly from the landscape of Wigner's hometown to his painting. As for the latter, well, Heloise' ghost flashes in and out of focus immediately. As Lessing said in L'Oculus, compared to poetry, painting is an art of space which cannot depict the continuous process of movement. However, cinema, as a mixed medium, should have been able to incorporate the characteristics of poetry and painting, unfolding in both the dimensions of time and space at the same time. But whether in The Danish Girl or Portrait of a Lady on Fire, there's a sense of discontinuity while switching film scenes. Just like separate paintings, there are huge leaps in many of the shots in these two films. What I'm trying to say is the huge gap between the previews and the next images. There are many corresponding examples in the films. For instance, in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, 1 second is an image of the maid struggling with the abortion process, and the next switches to a cozy scene of Marianne and Heloise sitting on the bed and whispering. This is a considerable gap between these two scenes. It seems like the previous scene ends abruptly and has little relevance to the following one. There are many similar scenes in The Danish Girl. For example, when Mr. and Mrs. Wigner are ready to go to the artist party, the previous scene is
sure about
Wigner urging his wife to make up and dress up. And the next is they appear in the streets in their gorgeous outfits. So they are like two different paintings, each separate in time and space. Therefore, the two films not only refer to the methods and techniques of painting in terms of the use of light and color, as well as the composition of the images, but also share similarities with painting in terms of the independence of the images. In conclusion, these two films revolve around painting, not only encompassing several paintings directly, but also show the process of painting. What's more, both films employ painting techniques in the composition of the frame, as well as the use of light and color, with obvious traces of reference. In terms of the differences, Portrait of a Lady on Fire emphasizes painting as a pure aesthetic expression, conveying the core of the story through visual elements and emotional layers. As for The Danish Girl, it combines painting with the exploration of gender identity, making painting a means of expressing the inner world of Anna Wigner, whose gender identity is a woman. All in all, both films are strongly comparable as painting serves as a clue throughout them. Moreover, there are many manifestations of media combination and intermediate references in both films, which also proves that, as a mixed medium, cinema can incorporate all the other art forms, or it can invoke them by imitating their procedures.